Hey everybody, this is Caleb with devslopes.com, and in this video we're going to be talking about enumerations. Enumerations are a really cool thing in Swift. It's a type that basically contains a group of related values that are all kind of under the same umbrella as each other. So if you think about like car is the big umbrella, you might have Maserati, Lamborghini, Geo Metro, nice. If you think about fruit, you might have banana, apple, orange. They're all related values under the same overarching type, which is a cool way to manage it. And basically what an enumeration allows us to do is we can work with those values in a type-safe way, which is really neat. So to show you how this works, I'm actually going to go ahead and create a playground, and we're going to go ahead and I'm going to teach you the syntax of an enumeration. I'm going to show you a couple of different things you can do with enumerations, and then at the very end, I'm going to show you a practical example that you could actually use in an application, so you know how you can use this. So let's go ahead and click Get Started with a Playground, and it should pop up. It popped up on my other window here, but for now, let's create a blank playground, and I'm just going to name it Enum's Teacher, because I'm the teacher. You can name it whatever you want, and go ahead and bump that open into full screen. And we're going to go ahead, you know what, this might be an Xcode beta bug. It looks like we're not going to be able to stretch that any wider, but that's fine. So for now, let's get rid of that string there. We don't need it. Let's get rid of the boilerplate code, and let's begin. So the syntax of an enumeration goes like this. You declare it by typing enum. Okay, that's short for enumeration. And then you give it a name. And think of these names like you would name a class, okay? So you're going to use capital letters at the very beginning. For every word, it will have a capital. So just for example, name of enum. Okay, and then you're going to give it some curly braces, just like a class. Now, inside an enumeration, we're going to go ahead and we're going to set up cases, okay? If you've ever used a switch statement, you're familiar with these. A switch basically allows you to go through a bunch of different options, and you call each one of those options a case. And so for an enumeration, we're going to give it cases as well. So I'm just going to say case, case 1, case 2, case 3. Okay, now of course these would be named something differently in a different enumeration, but for now this is just an example. And as you can see, the enumeration has 3 separate cases. And in order to instantiate that, all you need to do is to set up let enumeration, and we can make it of type. Well, actually, let's do a colon there, make it of type name of enum. Now, this, of course, is a terrible name, but it's just for an example. I'll show you some real examples in a second. And we can set that to be equal to one of our cases. Okay, and I'll show you why this is useful in just a little bit. Now, to actually access these cases, I can't just type case 1. You'll see it doesn't pop up. But what I can do is I can type a period, and that will give me access to all 3 of the different cases that I've set. So let's set this to be equal to case 2, and now you can see its value on the screen there is set to be case 2. Okay, that's pretty cool. So this is the basic syntax of an enumeration. You declare it with enum, and you give it cases. Okay, like I said before, car could be the name of the enum, and the cases could be DeLorean, Maserati, Lamborghini. Okay, those could be all the different cases. Now, you don't have to declare each case on a separate line. You can actually just go ahead and use commas. Okay, just like when you create multiple constants or variables, you can declare them in one straight line by using commas. So just type case 1, comma, case 2, comma, case 3. And as you can see, that works just the same. Okay, pretty cool. So let's go ahead and let's move on. I want to show you some other cool things enumerations can do. And one of those things actually is a really great example from Apple. So I'm going to pull open these 2 barcodes here. And barcodes are a great example because enumerations allow us to work with related values, but they also are good for kind of differentiating different types of things. And so here we have a standard UPC product barcode, and we also have a QR code, which is used for all kinds of different things, storing all kinds of different information. So they're very different kinds of barcodes, but they are both barcodes. So we're going to create an enumeration for barcode, but we're going to give it two cases. One will be UPC, okay, like this one here that you'd see on like the back of a box of cereal or something, and then we'll create one for the QR code. So go ahead and type enum barcode, and we're going to give it two cases, okay? The first case will be case UPC. The second will be case and QR code, just like that. Now, we're going to be able to put in associated values into this barcode enumeration. And what that's going to allow us to do is whenever we create an instance of barcode, and let's just say that we create an instance of barcode.upc, we'll be able to pass in values that are associated with that and then use those later or modify them. It's really cool. So for a UPC, for a product barcode, you'll notice there are 4 different numbers. Now at the beginning, there is a number that denotes the specific number system, okay, that a certain product might use. Okay, the second set of numbers is to denote the manufacturer who makes the product. Third is the product name or the product value, basically. These numbers are associated with a specific product. And then at the very end, there's what's called a check. And that basically allows for the store to know whether or not the barcode was scanned successfully. Okay, so there are 4 values. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to just put a parentheses next to UPC, and we can pass in 4 separate values in a tuple, which a tuple is, as you know, a list of values, unrelated or related. Okay, they can be either. Now, the values in this tuple are going to be related, and it's actually going to just be 4 integers, 1 for each of the separate number values in our barcode. So go ahead and just type int, comma, int, and do that 4 times, like so. And for the QR code, the cool thing is a QR code can hold all kinds of information and data, actually up to like 2,950 characters or something. But what we're going to do is instead of passing it multiple values, we're just going to pass in 1 string value. Because oftentimes, QR codes hold textual data, okay, like a URL or account information. Okay, very cool. So now that we have these associated values with our enumeration, what we're going to be able to do is create an instance of it and pass in those values, and then we can use them later on. So let's go ahead and let's create a barcode by typing var product barcode, and we're going to set that to be equal to barcode. And if we push the little, if we give a period there, we can choose UPC or QR code. Okay, let's choose UPC for now. And as you can see, it looks a little bit like a function. We're passing in values, and we're basically just setting them as 4 little temporary variables inside of this barcode. So let's go ahead and let's give the values from our UPC here. So the manufacturer is, or sorry, the, what's it called? The number system is 8. The manufacturer is 85909. The product number is 51226, and the check number is 3. So that's cool and all, but what if I wanted to print this out? If I type print product barcode, watch what happens. It'll print down here at the bottom in just a moment. So as you can see, it prints out UPC, and it prints out our 4 values. That's pretty cool, but we can't exactly access them or pull them out in any way. As you see, nothing pops up when I type a period at the end of that, so we can't actually access it that way. But check out what we can do. We can create a switch statement, and we're going to pass our barcode in, and if it is a UPC, we're going to create a temporary constant, and we're going to assign 4 constant values to the 4 values in our UPC. Then we can work with them and modify them. So let's go ahead and let's create a switch statement for product barcode. Okay, and we're going to give it 2 cases, UPC or QR code. So go ahead and type case. And the only thing, by the way, since it is of type barcode, the only things it can be are a UPC or a QR code. So we're going to go ahead and create some constants here. So inside our switch statement here, we're going to go ahead and create 4 constants by typing let.upc. So we're basically saying for a UPC, we're going to set 4 constants for these 4 values. And to do that, go ahead and type parentheses. And just like I said, we're going to type number system. That's the first number. Then the manufacturer, then the product, then the end is a check. Okay? Now, we're using let here, and just like we did up here with the 3 cases on the same line, by typing let here and number system manufacturer product check, we're creating 4 separate constants. And what we're going to do is once we have those 4 values set, we can print them out. So print, and whoops, we're going to go ahead and print UPC. And then using string interpolation, we're going to go ahead and pass these 4 constants we've created in and see if the values get properly passed. So inside of our special string interpolation syntax, go ahead and type number system. And then, you know what, let's actually, before we type that, let's copy and paste this so we don't have to type it so many times. There we go. So let's print number system. Okay, then let's print manufacturer, then product. Whoops. You know what, let's call that product code, actually. I like that better. Product code. Okay, and at the end, we're going to print the check value. So watch what happens when this runs through. It says that it has failed. Now, we're going to find out why that is, and that's because our switch must be exhaustive. A barcode can be UPC or QR code, so we need to give it an option to do something if a QR code gets passed in. Otherwise, the app could crash. So it's helping us to be safe, actually, which is pretty cool. Also, at the end of a case for a switch, we need to put a colon, so it knows that that's the end of that case. Okay? Let's go ahead and let's do that now for a QR code. So case let.qr code, and what we're going to do is we simply just have a product code. Okay? Because for a QR code, we're only passing in one value, which is a string. So for the case product code, we're going to go ahead and just print QR code, and we're going to just give it the product code, like so. All right. So now our switch is exhaustive. It's giving us an error, though. Let's figure out what the problem is. We have said case let.upc number system manufacturer product code check. Oh, okay. So the colon is in the wrong place. My bad. I put it at the end of the print statement. Cool. There we go. That looks wonderful. Let's do some cleanup here. And now you can see it prints because it is a UPC barcode. Okay, it printed out 85909, 51226, and 3. So now we have access to those values. Really cool. But what happens if I wanted to change the product barcode into a QR code? We could do that by just setting product barcode equals dot QR code. And we can give it a string value. So for that, I'll just type a bunch of random characters, and now that it's a QR code, watch what happens when it goes through the switch statement. It prints it out as a QR code. That's really cool. So as you can see, enumerations are really helpful, and they can be used for a lot of different things. Beyond associated values, we can do lots of different things, like we can set explicit values and types for our enumerations. So I'm going to show you that now. Let me pull this back open in full screen here, and let's give us some space so we can actually see. There we go. So I'm going to create an enumeration for Jedi Masters. And let's do that by typing enum Jedi Master. Of course, we are using the kind of conventions that you would for declaring a class with capital letters at the beginning. And what we're going to do is we're going to set up a few different cases. So some Jedi Masters that I can remember right now are, let's do case Yoda, case Mace Windu. How about Qui-Gon Jinn? Whoops, there's 2 N's there. Case Obi-Wan Kenobi. Who else? Luke Skywalker. I guess he could be in there. So as you can see, there are a bunch of different Jedi Masters in our enumeration. And if we were to print this out, watch what happens. If we print Jedi Master dot Yoda, watch what prints out. Okay, so you can see Yoda with a lowercase y prints out, and that's because since this is just text, we haven't really told it anything else, it's actually inferring that it is a string, which is cool. It lets us print it out, and that's really helpful. But what if I wanted to include Yoda's name in an app, and of course, since it's a proper noun, it should have a capital letter at the beginning. I can do that by setting an explicit type for this enumeration. So to do that, you can actually do it just like you would inherit in a class by typing a colon and adding string. So now each of these cases are explicitly a string. But what we can do is we can set a value for these cases, and we can access it by pulling out the raw value. So just like you would with a constant or a variable, go ahead and type Yoda, okay, with a capital letter. Go ahead and type Mace Windu. Go ahead and type, whoopsies, come on. Go ahead and type Qui-Gon Jinn. Go ahead and type Obi-Wan Kenobi. And go ahead and type Luke Skywalker without the capital K. Okay, cool. So as you can see, these all now have an explicit string type, which is really cool. But you probably noticed that Yoda is still printing out lowercase, which is the value for the case, but not the explicit value we've set. To access that, all we need to do is pull out the raw value. Watch what happens now when I print. It prints out the capital Y Yoda. If I were to change that to Master Yoda, you can see it prints out Master Yoda, the explicit string value that we've set, which is super cool. So you can do this for all kinds of things, integers, doubles, even your own custom types or classes, which is really neat. And so we just printed out the raw value for the explicit type that we've set for this enumeration. But you know what? This is not really super practical. These are all just sort of toy examples. I want to show you now how you could manage the state of a switch or a button by basically just creating a simple enumeration to hold the status of a switch, on or off. It's simple, but it's something that you could do in an app. So go ahead and type enum switch status. Okay, and we're going to set two cases, on and off, which makes sense. So go ahead and type case on and case off. There's two options, right? Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and create a variable that's going to hold the value for our switch status. And we're going to set it to be equal to off initially and then toggle it using a function. So let's do that now. Go ahead and type var switch status. Let's make it explicitly of type switch. Oh my gosh. Let's make it explicitly switch status, and let's set it to be dot. And as you can see, we have our two options here that pop up. We'll set it to be off from the beginning. Alrighty? Now, we are going to write a function that is going to invert the value of our switch status. If it's off, we'll run it through the function and it'll return on. If it's on, we're going to return off. Super simple. So go ahead and write flip switch. Okay, we're going to pass in a status of type switch status, and we're going to return a switch status as well. Okay, so if we pass in a status of off, if status is equal to off, we're going to go ahead and return dot on, right? That makes sense. If it's off, we're going to turn it on. Else, meaning if we pass in on, we're going to return off, just like that. Okay, really cool, super simple. So we have returned on or off depending on what status we get passed in. Now let's go ahead, remember that our switch status is currently off, and what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and call flip switch, which is our function, and we're going to show how the status of our switch is going to be flipped. Remember, it's off now, and if I pass in switch status, whoops, the one with the lowercase s, watch what happens when it prints out in the function over here. Now it's on. Okay, really cool. If I wanted to set our switch status to be equal to on, and then if I pass it into our function now, watch what happens. Let's pass in switch status, and it's on, remember. I set it on. Watch what happens when I flip it. It sets it to off. So we're using an enumeration to handle these related values, and we can use enumerations to do all kinds of cool things. You can set associated values, you can set explicit types and raw values for those explicit types. You can use tuples and pass in those values to your associated types. You can do all kinds of really, really cool stuff. And there's much more. If you dig into the Apple documentation on enumerations, you can learn much more. But this is just kind of to cover the basics of enumerations and all they can do to help you. So let's go ahead and let's move over to the next video. This is Caleb with devslopes.com.